Good day, everyone. Wherever you are in the world today, this is the Dr. Sophie Rothschild show. And I just want to talk about briefly about how sometimes some uh, Christians and others mis mistake how prophetic timelines work. For example, let's take Daniel 9 and the 70 weeks. But first of all, we all know that as it's stated in the book of Numbers and the book of Ezekiel and other places that a day of the year prophecy. So the 70 weeks turn to be the 490 days, which is 490 years, all right, of 360 day per month each. Okay. Now, some Christians they will take that the first 6 9 weeks, and then they take the last 7 weeks, so seven the last week, and put out into some future, talk about some antichrist. But that's not the case. The Daniel 9 um, prophecy or fulfillment is one continuous period that starts with it covers the destruction of the first temple to the destruction of the second temple. So the as goes from the time when we have the come from the destruction of the first temple, destruction of the second temple, a total of 490 years. Okay. Now, a lot of times too, some Christians see when they see the word Messiah or 91, they automatically mean it's talking about the real Messiah that will arrive in the end of days. But that's not the case because King Cyrus was also called a Messiah, and the Messiah means anointed one. Okay. Also, in certain places in the book of Leviticus and other places, book in the Torah, where you're speaking of the priest as the anointed one. Well, anointed one means the oil was poured on their heads or they were anointed. So Messiah in its most generic terms mean anointed one. It does not always mean the person called the Messiah that will arise in the final day, because as we can see, sometimes King Cyrus was called the anointed, called an anointed one, but that does not mean he is the actual Messiah that will arise in the days as described in Ezekiel 45 verse 22, etc., etc., etc. So I think one thing to be very careful of that will not make that mistake again. All right. So that's and also and I want to um, it about the four world empires: Babylon, Medo Persia, Greater Macedonian Empire. And they say another one will come after Greece. Well, one thing very particular is that it's that the lion, as it says, the Babylon was represented of the lion, Medo Persia represented the bear, and the Ottoman Empire was represented by the leopard with four heads. Why four heads? Because when Alexander died, the the Grecian Empire was divided up into within the four generals. That's the four heads. Then after that, we'd see for the empire, which would have seven heads and 10 horns. That's also very interesting because in Daniel, chapter 7, it mentioned that when the fourth world empire falls, um, you break into 10 sections, but then another little horn will come to power, speaking great things and changing times and laws. And with that, they will also vanquish the first, uproot the first kingdom. And we know that when the papacy came on the scene in 538 AD, the Vandals, Orla, and Ashtagoth was pushed out of existence. And from there, We see then the 538 AD to 1798 AD, the papacy basically which was really dominate all of Europe. And so always remember this, the day is a year in these charts, like in Daniel 7 and then Daniel 9, the day of the year prophecy. And two, it's a continuous period. Okay. And so now, and then after that, we see the rebirth of Israel in 1948. So, as we said, we're now in the end of days. And so, we don't want to set any particular date. We don't know when the particular date will be, but we know that um, times are moving very fast, and we're living a very special moment in history of humanity. So yeah, we should be very we should always paying close attention at this juncture and be always prepared. Thank you so much, and have a good day.